This not every
What do you want to do?
It's a mouthful. Fine. All right. Welcome to the Adelaide Microsoft IT Pro Community User Group Meetup for September 2023. I'm joined here with Brett Moffett. I'm Andrew Young, and today the topic will be Intune application packaging fundamentals. But first, we'll run through the what's new, what's old, and what's coming. And we'll do a little bit of a welcome to the country. So we meet on the traditional lands of the Kaurna people, where their rich culture and deep connection to the land has flourished for countless generations. We acknowledge and pay our respects to the elders past, present, and emerging for their custodianship and wisdom that guides us on this journey of shared understanding and reconciliation.
Yeah. Today we're going to be talking about Microsoft Intune and application packaging. How many people here in the room are currently using Config Manager to do their application packaging and so forth? Yep. Anyone else here using Config Manager for packaging?
What's an SCCM?
SCCM or Endpoint Manager or whatever they're calling it now.
Meckham.
Historically, I've done a lot with Config Manager back in the day, and then slowly moving over towards Intune. So we've seen this industry shift from away from on-prem with Config Manager and over to Intune. Lots of places have it in a hybrid mode set up at the moment, but a lot of organizations are trying to get away from having on-prem stuff and over to Intune. So application packaging is going to be the first sort of big chunk of that people have that hurdle to get over before they can really start to roll out the Intune to their organisation. So that's what we're talking about today.
Yeah. And in hindsight, I should have this slide a bit later on so we don't have to repeat what we just said.
Yeah, true. We're well organised today.
Yeah, good times. All right. So what's new? M365. There is a new SharePoint news for email template in your news web part. So if you hit new and you present it with your templates, you can now create something that will look nice in your emails. So it will actually load up in the email body itself. What warning, if you have your emails going to a DL that includes a Teams channel, for example, it doesn't actually render it. It says the email is too big. So don't try sharing that via a Teams channel email address. There's better ways to do that. But that's really cool. It saves you going to a news post again and promoting it and sending it to email afterwards, after you publish it. There's two new SharePoint themes. They're black with a kind of a red in there, and cerulean, which is another type of blue.
Revolutionary.
Yeah. So I don't know what the justification behind that is, but yeah, more blues than there need to be. But you can always create your own custom blues as well. So another session on that really needs to. There's announcements in Viva Connections rolling out from this month. I believe it's going to be the mobile and tablet devices first, but you can create sort of like push notification style pop-up messages. They're at the top there, so everyone's going to see them, hopefully.
Does anyone here or on the call use Viva Connections in their organisation?
What is it again?
So it taps into your SharePoint home site, or you just have it as standalone as a Viva Connections app. It's another way of getting your newsfeed and other useful links and buttons and stuff at the forefront. It runs on Teams, and yeah, there's a lot more coming to it, but depends on the size of the business and what your use cases are. Some people prefer to just use Teams channels. Some might use Viva Engage or Gamma in the past, but it's another, I guess, shortcut to your important information.
Is it at the back end to agenda items and meetings now?
No, so this is once you've enabled it, there is a web part in SharePoint called the dashboard. And that's what those tiles or those squares kind of come through as. If you click through, like there should be, yes, the feed is your news web parts, and then the resources is the global navigation across the top in your SharePoint intranet. So it's, yeah, again, another thing inside of a thing that's meant to replace a thing. So
This one asks about your feelings. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the Viva Suite itself is the employee experience platform. So it's going to be all about well-being and checking in with your team and all that. So thus the announcement side of things.
So replace that marketing, that Facebook phone that was in.
Viva Engage. Storylines are still in there. That's what you're talking about.
What is it?
Yeah, I know exactly.
Yammer became Viva Engage, which is another.
HR always
is a
wants to
different
use
app.
Yammer. No one wants to use it.
But there's new Yammer now.
Another
It's
one.
not even called Yammer anymore.
Viva
It's all about that
Engage
engagement.
Is it called Viva now? Or?
Yeah, Viva
Viva
Engage.
Engage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So they have renamed it. I
Yes.
thought they renamed it.
Yeah, they're trying to bring it all under the Viva sort of banner and so forth. And it's going to be one of those things that as Viva evolves, different things will be winning strategies and different parts will roll into different parts and so forth. I think it's a really good strategy. I think the idea of Viva is a really good strategy. I think they just had the cohesion hasn't sort of gotten to that point yet. So they're trying to, those are organizations that really invested heavily in Yammer. They've got to sort of slowly sort of wean them off of that and bring them into something else and so forth. So
Recently, I got informed that Yammer uses synced domains or something to do with synced domains. So if you have multiple domains, Yammer doesn't work.
okay.
For the other domain, and no one told us about that.
Yep. So there's all those sorts of challenges. Yeah. But I think Viva, especially for a diversified workforce that are working from home and from an office in different locations, Viva is going to really help with a lot of that, to be able to communicate around to people over time. So
It's just taking proof that we're actually here.
we're actually here.
All right, moving on. Yes, we can color our folders now in OneDrive and SharePoint online. So for those that like to categorize everything, you can now do that to your folders.
You can use the nice blue.
There's 3 shades of blue though.
3 shades of blue.
It's nice for those that like to have quick flipping to the color because they know that green means that and red means whatever. There's a Meet app in Teams now, so it aggregates all your meetings and meeting agendas and notes and stuff like that. So it's another place for them to live. It's probably better, well, say better, but it's probably smoother than going through the calendar because they're all lined up ready to go rather than everything else in your calendar, which, if you're just trying to find a meeting, it's probably a nice spot to go to. Some new search experience in chats and channels. Realize my animation did not play. So it's using the right-hand side instead of doing a full screen bleed search results. So you're still, you're not changing context as much. You're still there in the chat or the channel itself. So
I click to the inline chat so you can search around.
I suspect you can click something on the right there and it'll jump to the message in the chat history there. Similar to what the current search does, but not as all over the place. Clipchamp is now available in M365. So this is an image or more of a video editing creation application. Have a look. I think some of our recordings have been edited with this and then uploaded to YouTube. So does the job, I guess. You get an MP4 that's 3 times the size of it used to be. So that compression.
Always useful.
It's limited.
Does that integrate with Steam? Like this,
Yeah,
And it's limited length clips as well.
I've actually tried using it. The stream, screen record was limited to 15 minutes. So I imagine something similar.
Uploads everything. Everything. So you got to upload it or edit it, download
Or
it,
it lives online.
and then it crashes. And then it starts again.
Good for
Your
small
mileage
videos.
may vary.
Yeah, good for small videos and things like that. Larger videos, not so much. If you're doing service desk, knowledge-based articles or whatever, and you're just trying to clip out a small chunk or something, they're useful for those sorts of things. So,
You've also got the screen snipping tool now does
Yeah.
screen recording, which
Massive video files if you do that.
oh, really?
Yeah,
Interesting. I've not seen that one.
No, they're huge. It's like 2-minute thing was like 24 plus minutes.
Wow.
Something.
Wow.
So you got to put into Teams and it just goes,
And it's after like selecting just a certain area.
yeah, yeah. It just, yeah. I mean, it probably, was it that it still grabs the whole screen probably and then only shows that bit and then you could decode it. And there was a whole fun with that.
Right. Interesting. Yes.
Right. Adaptive card-based loop components are in preview, so the developers in the room might be excited. I guess you can dress up the loop components, but we'll wait to see more once this goes generally available. But yeah, I mean, because there's like 10 different loop components at the moment, so I imagine you can double that at least if you give them a different face. Yeah. Python and Excel. Yeah, so the Anaconda repository for Python, you can do things. For one, don't really know much about Python, but it's going to let you do some of the same functions that you would be familiar with the Python language versus the Excel users, like queries.
You know, I can run any Python script from an Excel file. Like that's exactly what I want the inside of
I think it's
security, right?
Yes.
I think it runs out of
One more thing to.
yeah, it runs out of Azure somehow. People
Okay.
know more, but
Maybe that's a good topic to cover.
yes. Quickly moving on. There's a bunch of new updates for OneNote app on Android devices. You're an Android user, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, command bar optimizations, additional capture modalities, the plus icon, real-time note sharing, inserting shapes in link mode, and then you can insert tables, update the font color and styles, and update the page color and style as well. So doesn't mean much to me.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what to do. I was like, I'll just overlap. We'll be fine. Right, security. So extended protection for Exchange Server will be enabled by default for Exchange 2019 and above. And like in the message there, if you got anything older than that, too bad too. So yeah, upgrade and update. So this is more of those. This one is we got notes for this. Prevents man-in-the-middle attacks. So it's transport layer kind of thing. Along with that, they've announced that HSTS, so HTTP strict transport security, will also be used or available, and it forces your websites to use HTTPS connections, so reducing that attack surface. I'm certainly not what I'm talking about. If you've got the attack simulation training, so M365 Key 5 or Defender for Office 365 Plan 2, they've now included how-to guides. So you can send these out and it'll have instructions and information on how to report something as phishing or etc. So it's nice to have that. Yeah. No. Conditional access overview dashboard and template. So there's some new looking portal pages, I guess, in the Enter ID space. So if you're familiar with the older style conditional access portal, it looks nothing like this. And there's a lot more, I guess, in one glance now. And you can click through to certain links. Yeah, so there's a link there on the front page to go, oh, show me all the failed sign-ins for a certain period. All the devices and their compliance state, and just an overview of what I guess conditions are being triggered and more name locations and other stuff like that for your policies. And then the policies themselves, the templates, you can now generate new ones based on these pre-canned policies. So be it all admins need MFA or block or basic authentication, stuff like that, you can now just go next, and it creates it all for you, and all you have to do is turn it on and assign or exclude users and groups from it.
I believe the automated remediation scripts have moved them from one spot to another.
Yeah.
As far as that's concerned. So conditional access, conditional access is I think really important that especially as we move across to fully into Azure, and we have a mobile workforce that are out there to be able to make sure that the security on the device is met before they can access any data. And it's all well and good to say, well, you know, you're not up to date with a certain whatever, or you don't have a certain setting fixed, so we're just going to block you from things. But at the end of the day, you don't then want to generate more calls to the service desk to be able to fix it, especially if it's 11 o'clock at night. So being able to automate fixes for those elements as you put them into your policy is a great way to be able to do that. So it should auto remediate those problems as they fly along. So that may be enforcing a reboot on the machine, or it may be locking a particular registry key or some other setting that you've set inside your policy. So, yeah.
Mac OS users can look forward to having platform single sign-on. So that's enhancement to the recently released single sign-on extension. So it's going to let you use passwordless credentials and have passwords managed and validated by the Entra ID suite. So happy days. Okay, and the animation. What's new in the Intune space? Remote help for Android is coming in preview. So that's that new add-on that they've slapped on now. So they used to be partnered with TeamViewer. Now there's a built-in sort of application to give you that remote access.
Yeah,
to
so
support
you're going to be
your
able to
users.
remote desktop other machines, so you're now going to be able to do it into Android as well. So
It's
directly from there.
Samsung and Zebra devices that are enrolled through Android Enterprise. And I think it's like $3 per user per month.
Yeah, it is a cost on and above your E5 or you know, whatever you've
YouTube
got.
plan one.
Yeah, so yeah, which is a bit of a pain, but you know, especially when EPOM is supposed to be all you can eat per user, but that's okay. We could just add more to it. It is a useful thing because it is all integrated, of course, into the ecosystem. And partners like ServiceNow with their ITSM platform actually have plugins that sit on top of that connect into Intune that you can then auto run that remote help directly from your ticket while you're actually inside that ticket. So if you've got the CMDB item, you hit go and a remote desktop stuff onto that machine. So yeah, that sort of integration is going to be really powerful, I think. Helpful.
Ooh, I've
Is
skipped
that
ahead.
only for ServiceNow?
Sorry?
Is that only for ServiceNow or other ticketing systems?
That's a really good question. I know ServiceNow have done it. There was a product from my old company, Sorrison, that plugged into System Center Service Manager, but that wasn't Intune based. As for other products, I don't know. I've not seen anyone else create their own thing, but it's a partner thing, so it's up to the actual product owner to create that.
Depending on the connector or.
Correct, yeah. And of course, it's an additional cost,
Yeah.
as always.
Yeah.
You know, because vendors love to charge.
I think ServiceNow, it's a cost on that side as well.
Yeah.
Correct,
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
yes. So you're paying $3 a user for the ability to be able to do it, and then you've got to buy the Intune plugin for ServiceNow, which means you've got to have the ServiceNow graph plug in, and away you go and away, yeah. Nothing's for free in this world, unfortunately.
It's got a question on the time frame of remote help getting unattended access.
What?
I'm guessing since
That's
that
a really good question.
Android stuff is only in preview now, it's probably 3 to 6 months away from going generally available.
But so unattended mode, so
Yeah.
being able to remote and take over the machine directly. It's a really good question. I don't know if they'll have that, or it'll be more a RDP replacement for that, which would be.
There were notes, no, not in them.
Okay. No, I don't know.
Yeah, I'll get
It's a good one
back.
to
I'll
chase
get back
up.
to you on that one. I did see something about the unattended stuff, so I'll put it in the notes afterwards. Janik Reinhardt's done a blog article on connecting, I guess, GPT or OpenAI in his tenant with Intune to be able to have a kind of a troubleshooting help chatbot kind of thing happening. So have a read through that. I'll send the links afterwards. Yeah, pretty cool. Having kind of a personal assistant on what does this random error mean in this device. It'll give you information and steps to kind of remediate it.
And this is kind of the start of things that we'll start to see with ChatGPT or any of these large language devices that we've got out there as we start to bring that into our systems. It's not just a case of, whether it's Defender and Sentinel and so forth, that we're collecting all of this information up and I'm reporting to you these errors and pieces of information. It's now going to be able to take that, feed it into that large language model and say, okay, well, what should I do? And how do I sort of remediate these sorts of things? And actually give you advice rather than just show you the data and you make your mind up on it, actually giving you advice and passing things along with it. The more we then bring that into, say, the service desk and those components as well, we're going to see self-help being the big thing that will self-remediate and so forth. And also, again, prompt the service desk analysts with, hey, this is the error message that we've seen on that, and here's 2 or 3 things that we think is potentially the cause of that. Try this, and allow them to be able to step through it. So we'll see more and more of that come online as people start to think up new and interesting ways of using this stuff.
Next minute, Microsoft will sweep in and go, use Intune Copilot.
Well, you can imagine that's coming very, very soon.
Don't give them ideas, brother. The Intune Tech Community Live. So there's a webinar or this bunch of webinars coming up this Friday, starting from 12 a.m. into whatever that equals that our time. So early morning, I guess the sessions will be recorded and then placed somewhere, but I guess it's a AMA kind of stuff.
Yep.
Maybe.
Lots of different topics in there, depending on what it is that you're doing with Intune in your environment. It can be some really interesting bits to attend as far as that's concerned.
Okay, what's old? Same list as every month we've done so far. Particularly the highlighted stuff there. Server 2012/R2 is end of extended support, 10th of 10th, or 11th of 10th. I assume that's US times, but yeah, you probably don't want to be on that. And if you are still somehow, for whatever reason, get onto the extended security updates. There are ways to speak to your distributors and IT remote, support teams, and they'll sort you out. So it's either you're getting cloud solutions from CSP licensing or using Azure Arc to kind of connect your on-prem with your cloud and manage your updates that way. But you don't want to be sitting on something old for too long. That's generally the Office apps for 2019 as well.
Stuff still for this, it still hasn't tried.
It's trying to. Really should have double checked the animations. So it's Jan 2024. There is a new Business Central related certification and exam for those that are in that field. I know this is not a specific Dynamics user group, but people might be interested. Later this month, there is a rename of the Marketing Functional Consultant Associate to Customer Insights Journeys. Someone will explain that one to me, I'm sure. Customer Data Platform Specialist is becoming Customer Insights Data Specialist. I think makes sense. And they're retiring a couple of them. The core finance and ops next March. And last month we had the Information Protection Admin renamed the Information Protection and Compliance Administrator. You know those mouthfuls, right? And the old messaging admin, so the Exchange Online one is getting retired and it's new. Cool stuff again. Microsoft Portals, Adam Fowler, co-host alumni. He's got a portal with all the handy different portal URLs, ranging from start that there's I think it's hundreds like that. And there's another website by the TLA, the TPM team. So it's 3-letter acronyms. So they've got a huge list of those and what they stand for. Azure Charts, that's pretty cool. It's an interactive web page with just all the different Azure resources and how they I guess separate and fit in together and all that. There's a repo on just Azure naming conventions. So like your subscription name, your region, your resource group, the actual resource itself. So get a good practice of what to name it, because I think some of the names of products are kind of global within the Azure space. So you try to get it right the first time because someone else might take it. I think there's still a future of Dynamics 365 AIM course going. And I saw just yesterday there's a new learning path on Microsoft Learn for getting your organization prepared for the Microsoft 365 Copilot. There was a disclaimer there that the content is prepared with the help of AI. So,
Oh gosh.
yeah. I've yet to go through it, so it could be some interesting content in there. And I'm wondering whether the coding at the front is something that was generated as well. MS012, which leads me to believe that there's an exam coming up with the code, but they don't use the last number usually, so don't know what's happening there.
Interesting.
All right. Other communities around the place. Yep, there's a few. You get these links in the notes afterwards. I think there is a security one that is on usually after us. Although we've been doing our user groups on the second Tuesdays now, so they're probably on the first Tuesdays still. Adelaide Office 365 user group, that's still the third Tuesday. BI group, I think that was earlier today at lunchtime, I think. Yeah. All right, and there's a couple of Discord servers there as well if you're interested.
Lots of good resources here in Adelaide as well.
I'm almost there. What's coming? So Intune Tech Community Live, that's this Friday. There's an exclusive OneDrive event. The future of file management is here, October the 4th at a nice 2:30 a.m. We're spoiled for choice down here. Microsoft Power Platform Conference is early next month in Vegas. Ignite is mid-November. Stream is going away, and Digital Workplace Conference New Zealand dates have been announced for Christchurch this time around, and there is a call for speakers form on their website. So if you're interested in presenting and going to Christchurch, give it a go.
If you do have a topic that you'd like to speak on, they are always looking for different presenters to be able to go to those. Accommodations paid for, but you got to get yourself there.
Speaker, accommodation, and the conference is covered. You just have to get yourself there.
I've done it in the past, or one similar in the past. Before it was called Digital Workplace Conference. Very good, great networking possibilities down there as well. So, great for getting experience if you do want to get up and talk.
And I did promise Debbie that I'd be promoting any of these when they come up. So, stare into the camera.
Check.
All right.
Done. And as always as well, if you do want to practice speaking and speaking to a group and giving a technical thing, please feel free to come up with a topic and present it here in this group. We're always keen to have speakers and to help people out learning how to do public speaking and presenting to a crowd. So feel free if that's what you want to get into.
Cool.
Reach out.
That's it for my bit. Now,
I haven't any, as I said, zero presentation set up and all of this. I literally was writing this about 8 seconds before we.
I didn't see you sneak in an extra slide.
I did. That was in before. So there we go.
All right. Well, let's minimize that.
So we'll hand over and you can browse and go to the endpoint portal. All right. So.
Is this one of mine or?
Oh no, that was mine.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to be talking about Intune application packaging. Now we're just going to be talking about fundamentals here. It's not sort of a real deep dive in, how would I distribute this particular application to 30,000 laptops globally in 9 different languages across different countries, across a different port modem or anything like that at this point. basically I want to be able to give everyone an understanding of what can be packaged, how you go about packaging those sorts of applications, and then the kinds of controls that you put around them as well as you start to create those applications and start operating them together. So the different types of apps that we can package are all here on the screen. Store apps are any of the apps that are either inside the Microsoft Store or in the Android Store or in the Apple Store. Microsoft 365 apps, Microsoft have already pre-packaged all of their Office 365 apps, so you can be able to go in there, set the particular settings that you need, hit go, and then it comes. Very nice way of being able to do it. Packaging up Edge, Microsoft Edge, they've done the same thing for us. Defender for Endpoint, that's just for Mac OS. That setup there is just for Mac OS because Windows has Defender for Endpoint, so already put in there. Web applications, I'm not actually sure. Going into web applications, that's a really good question.
With the Defender, I think Windows settings. But there's no setup per se, but set the connection.
It's in the configuration profile.
Yeah, benefit compliance.
Okay, yep. Web applications, iOS, iPad OS, web clips, web links, or web clips for Mac OS as well. So I've not played with Windows web links for web applications.
I tried once.
I'm not actually sure what is a web link, Windows web link.
It's basically a shortcut, but instead of opening up the browser, it kind of opens up the browser on a full screen. So you're using a web
Like a
app or something like
type
that.
mode.
Yeah, sort of thing. And it's just like, you have the tile that looks like an application. And you can click on that and it goes straight to whatever that web app is.
Okay.
Thing. It's like in Chrome and Edge when you make a web app sort of thing, and it's like just installs into Start. But really, all you're doing is going to like the contained,
Okay.
without the rest of the
WPA.
the WPA stuff without the rest of the browser fluff on it. It's exactly the same but for iOS.
Okay, there you go. So interesting. All right, so you can, so that's, how you can package that up through that. And other, they call it, there's a whole bunch of other ones in there, line of business applications, Mac OS apps, and packages and so forth. But I guess the two big ones in there are web links. So if you have a particular web link you want to be able to put as an icon on a desktop inside the browser, you can set it up in there, and then the Windows apps, so Win32 apps. So that's probably where most of you want to look at here today, how to get our standard off-the-shelf package that we use all the time. We bundle that up in an MSI or something along those lines, and we silently install it and push out that code, and we get it out to end users. What you would traditionally do in Config Manager, that's when we're talking about those Win32 apps. So we'll have a look at those here today as well. Question is,
Do you want to move that there? Right? That's
woo, cool. So we're going to jump straight to Win32 apps because that's going to be the most important stuff. I know, right? I'm going to chuck the whole heap of stuff up on here. This is in the README file of the application, so we don't, there's nothing secret sauce that's sort of involved in here. Traditionally, with Configuration Manager, you would take the source files, you would put it in a folder, and you would put it on your distribution point inside Configuration Manager, and then you would say, this folder is the source location for this stuff. This executable is what I want you to run, and I want you to run with these parameters after it. I want you to run this script to install that, whatever, to package that up. Inside Intune, it wants all of that in a bundle rather than in a folder somewhere. So there is a tool that you download called Intune Win Application Utility, Windows Application Utility, and you run that against your folder full of those source files. It bundles it up into a file that you then pass on to Intune and say, okay, here's my files. It takes care of that bundle of files for you. it is just a zip file. At the end of the day, if you change the extension to .zip, it will unzip, and there's all the files that are a part of it. It's just putting it in a format that it knows, and then it can put its components around, especially things like the catalog folders, which are for running Windows 10 in S mode. Anyone know what S mode is?
Sucks mode. Store mode.
It's running as a kiosk, basically. You're saying, okay, just these apps can run on it. You can't do anything else, so we're going to lock this whole thing down, and it becomes just a functional piece of hardware. So you can't do anything else with that cost. Can be useful if you're going to be doing kiosks or something that's sitting in front of someone that you can be able to type into. It's called S mode. So you can package those sorts of applications in that way as well. But yeah, all those files will be compressed into an Intune, .intune win file. But again, if you just replace that with a .zip, you'd be able to extract that open. The setup file is the thing that it is going to run, whether that's setup.exe or a setup.msi or a PowerShell script or a bit of BB script. Does it even run anymore? Yeah.
It's some old school packages still using them. Like, why?
I love it. Yeah, that will actually run. We're not giving it its command prompts at this point. We're not giving it its /q/a/whatever commands that we would for the MSI. We'll actually do that inside Intune when we give it the right command.
You can though. You could have a PowerShell script that's got all of the things in
Correct.
it, and then you just go launch that script.
Correct.
And uninstall launch that script as well.
Yeah. So instead of setup.exe, you could have setup.PowerShell, and it would call the setup.exe with all its extensions and so forth.
Helpful for convoluted.
Yeah, and do some cleanup and some other bits and pieces that you might want to do because it's a multi-step process of some applications. Most applications that are just off the shelf will have an MSI or some sort of way of being able to do that. What's the website called? Ninja.
Yeah, that's not the end of that.
I don't know what it is, but I wish I
Look it up.
Ninja Deploy? Is it deploy?
Pardon?
Ninja Deploy or something?
Ninja Deploy or something like that.
Something
It was a community. I'm going to try. I've got to find it. It was a community of people that or application packages, and they'll take an application, write up about that application, and then its quiet and admin type keys around it as well. Most applications will have an MSI, and that MSIs are very well documented with /QB and quiet admin modes and all of those sorts of things. But some application creators decide to come up with their own deploy methods that are weird and wonderful and run multiple PowerShell scripts on top of each other. Anyway, so you can use different ways to be able to test that. They will put that on that website. Find the name of it? No. I will find the name of it and I'll post it to the group. It's very, very useful for finding those weird and wonderful applications and how to sign up and install them. Cool. What do you do?
I don't know.
Can I have that screen?
Yeah, Joe.
Is it that one?
Pardon?
Is it me, the one?
Like a
Oh, is it the Ninja one? Yeah, maybe.
It's been a while. It has been a while. I will find it. I do believe there's also Chocolatey was a application packaging website as well that interfaced with Configuration Manager. Now, what I haven't looked at or looked into is whether or not they're actually doing the interface into Intune. I don't think so. It might be fun.
You can also use Winget as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And in theory, you could just have your package be PowerShell, which is just Winget, Notepad++.
Go and get it. Yeah.
Which is kind of stupid, but
So the,
Ninja.
yeah, IT Ninja.
Yes.
That's the one, IT Ninja. There you go. I had something to do with Ninja. Yeah, IT Ninja is a great resource for those weird applications out there that you're trying to somehow silent install. They've got PowerShell scripts and so forth with them as well. If you can't get it to do it out of the box. I hate these. Have you ever used these Arc mouse?
They're the worst.
They are the worst bloody things. I can't believe you. Anyway, sorry, Nick. I'm not.
You could just be on there.
Oh, yeah, no, that's true.
Yeah.
It's better than a trackpad because trackpads are bloody awful.
Previously known as app.
Okay, I'm just going to log into Intune here.
The website's there.
Oh, is it? Oh, IT Ninja's down at the moment.
I won't be linking that one.
I cannot remember my password. I apologise. That's why I have LastPass.
Authenticator app, come on, man.
Pardon?
Authenticator app.
Authenticate. Well, I haven't gone passwordless yet with mine, and I should. It's again another one of those things that I should do, and never quite get around to it. All right.
Especially when Andrew's got his keylogger running on his laptop.
Yeah.
Get straight to that system. Voice from there's the key on there.
Never. Now,
I've already got USB-C.
that's okay. I've got USB-C. It's all good.
You can just set up that for passwordless auth, and if you have got FIDO keys, set it up in mysigns.microsoft.com. Set up as well. It is the best thing ever, right? Mine sits in my computer, and I only have to ever type in my PIN. Best thing ever.
No, absolutely. Phone and tablets. Yeah, I should. Why?
No, use a different device. It's defaulting to this recently, and Windows Hello or security key. Yeah, and then it should. There you go.
I just want to use my device. That's fine. But apparently now, once
PIN.
I've never used a pin on this before in my life. Pin.
Doesn't like it.
Didn't like that apparently. Otherwise, to sign in, yes, come on. There we go. That's what we're after. That makes that so difficult.
I dev tenant switched to using number matching after I finally signed in.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, where's my code? Gave me a prompt to dedicate. Okay.
No, Wednesday song. That's all. Okay. Yeah. So for those of you that haven't looked at it before, this is the dashboard for Intune, now called Endpoint Manager. Or Endpoint, sorry, endpoint.microsoft.com as the endpoint there. And what we're looking at here is under here is apps. So these apps will then show you a whole bunch of stuff, and then you can sort out by platform down here. You can then set up your app protection policies and app configuration policies as well. So when you start to set up configuration policies inside Intune around Windows or Android or iOS, there is a bunch of configuration that you can do around the device level, but then you're going to have to do a bunch around the application level as well. But the application needs to be configured. So yes, I want Edge, for example, to be installed on my Android device, and I have to set up a setup on a particular policy to allow Edge to be able to come onto that device and so forth. But that doesn't configure Edge. So I need to create an app policy for that as well that then configures Edge. So when it does come down onto that device, I can have it a certain way. But what that does allow you to do is have different configurations of Edge across a single deployment of Edge inside Android devices, for example. So I'm going to send out Edge to all of my devices out there, but I'm going to have a different app configuration based on a different group of what Android device you're logged into or your role inside the organization. Right, but then we'll get on with package with apps. Here I've got a whole bunch of Android apps that I could. They never have a good navigation. Is absolutely terrible. But by platform. Okay, so we can package up a bunch of apps that appear in here. We can see what's going on with them and the type that is associated with them. So there's those Win32, or it could be a store app. So for example, Microsoft Whiteboard. I want to be able to deploy Whiteboard for everybody. It is a modern app that they call it, comes from the store. So this will automatically update itself and patch over time and so forth. It's all configured. And give it a nice logo, all of those sorts of things. And then who I'm deploying it to. All enrolled devices. I'm going to set it out to that. Windows, well, we've got Office 36, Office 365, 36.5, good one, 36.5. Office 365. Here, I can give it different information URL and so forth and package up what all that looks like and configured and so forth when we push out different setups of Office. So we'll actually go through some of these. So here's a Windows 32 application that I packaged up. CM Trace, good old config manager. I can't let config manager die. CM Trace is one of the best log reading utilities that still exists, in my opinion. So until you use VS Code, this is true. VS Code is the new sort of way of that. That's absolutely true. So in this situation here, we packaged up CM Trace in here. It's got a batch file. Again, another thing that I picked up there from IT Ninja, went onto there, found their batch file, good old batch files, and how to install that and away we go. Gave it some return codes of what that actually looks like. So we can actually edit that to actually see what it's doing there in the background. So when you're actually setting this up, it'll ask you for that app information. The more information you give around the description and so forth, it will appear in the Intune portal for your end users that can go and select it if you've set it up to be a selectable app for them to be able to install. So the more information you put in there, the better for those end users. Yeah, app version, category, all of those sorts of things that you want to classify things as. Version control for Win32 apps is really important because you're responsible for patching them. When they're coming out of the Windows Store, they will automatically update as the Windows app, the modern app updates. It will automatically update it, same with Office 365. But when it comes to Windows 32 applications, if a new version is released, you will need to go and repackage that new version and swap them out. Okay. Privacy URL, developer owner, all those other notes, image, all of the fun stuff that comes along with it. Show this as a featured app in the company portal. So this may be something new that you're pushing out and you want to show people as part of when they go to that company portal, you want that to pop out and say, hey, look, there's this new app that we're putting out as far as that's concerned, whatever that is inside your organization. A good way to be able to notify people of the new application that's available.
That's when you assign it as available rather than applied.
That's when you show it as available rather than applied. Yeah, that's right. Now, it's one of those things that setting, I think, is really important for tech-savvy audiences. People in IT that are consuming IT, we know to go looking for apps in an app store and so forth and so on. Anyone that's not, anyone that's just the CEO or just the executive or just the head of finance or whatever, They want to get on with their job. They don't care about portals or web stores, all these sorts of things. So they're not going to go looking for that app. They're going to turn on their PC and expect the app to be there. So that's where we really need to be able to set up those profiles of individual users, individual roles, and have a set of applications that get pushed out for that role.
Needy user group.
Pardon?
The needy user group.
The needy user group, yes, correct. Yes, executive level support. I like to install an app on a corporate device only, how to configure it. So deploying applications to, I assume this is the question here. How do I deploy an application to a device that's only a corporate device rather than it being a deploying to a BYOD type device? When you have a corporate device, it will enroll in Azure AD. So it will become an enrolled device rather than a joined device. So you can set them up as different types of devices and then target them at different groups, depending on the type of device that you actually have. So BYOD devices, you've set it up as your personal account. You've then added your work account on top of that. That is now a joined device. So you've joined, but it's not enrolled as part of it. So yeah, you'll be able to see the difference between those BYOD devices and corporately owned devices. So you can absolutely target them that way.
Easily enroll BYD device that eventually is enrolled.
Yeah, well, I have seen people enroll their BYOD devices. Yes, but hopefully not.
You don't have groups. They just target your corporate identifier.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
But that specific person.
Yes,
But that's
exactly.
separate to what you're doing here.
That's
Here's setting up
separate.
the application and then how you deploy the application. And we'll touch on that after.
Correct. Yeah. I think probably what we need to do is next month we've got a speaker already lined up. So probably for November, we'll look at how to manage devices out in the field, specifically Android type devices as well, using things like a Samsung Knox to register the device. So no matter where you are, you turn that device on, it phones home and gets that image that comes across it, very similar to autopilot for Windows. I just realized how much time we don't have. Okay, cool. One of the cool new features that was added very recently was the ability to uninstall the application from a user's, from a admin's perspective. You could turn it on so that the end user could uninstall it themselves, go into add remove programs and hit uninstall. But from an admin's perspective, I couldn't reach into that machine and uninstall that piece of software. That's now been added in to Intune, which is very, very powerful and very, very useful. That was about a month and a half ago, not long ago.
So if you're an admin, you can uninstall.
So it depends on what you've set up with the install behavior.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you set up the install behavior as system, it installs as the system in the background. Away you go. You can't, as an end user that isn't an admin, you can't then uninstall it. If it's set up as a user, it then installs in your user profile rather than setting up in program files for everybody to use, and then you can uninstall them. The problem then was, if I set it up the system and I only have non-admin users out there, how the hell do you ever uninstall that application? There was never a way to actually be able to do that. That's what's been solved with the new Intune uninstall as well. So end users can now go in and uninstall apps that we allow them to. So here I can say it's installed as a system. Am I going to allow end users to uninstall this application? Yes. And I can also uninstall it from an admin perspective in the background.
Is that required for the reinstall option as well?
It's a really good question. I don't know. That's a really good question. I'll have to take that one away.
Right question. does it apply actually retroactively? So if you've already installed an application to change the install behavior, uninstall behavior.
Another really good question. So the question here, if you didn't hear it, was if you've deployed it in one way, like I have here, it's set to no. If I've come in here and I now set this to say, yes, review and save, does it retroactively go out and set up that profile? I believe it does, but I'll need to double check that one. Because the package, again, depending on how I've got the package set up, if it's set to auto deploy, it'll automatically deploy because it sees the package has changed its version, and it'll deploy it as far as that's concerned. If it's set up as a manual install or a selected install, available install, probably not. But I'll need to double check that one. It's an interesting couple of good ones in there. Standard stuff like restart behavior, all of those sorts of things. Return codes, what do we want as far as those return codes are concerned, and what are we going to say, how are we going to report those? Retry, hard reboot, soft reboot, all those sorts of things that are associated with it. A lot of places have custom ones, so we can set those up, which is very cool. Requirements. So again, we can set up what requirements are available. So it could be CPU speed, it could be OS type, OS versions, how much disk space, physical memory, all of those sorts of things, so we don't end up in a big mess. If this isn't granular enough, you have a script that would go out there and read a whole bunch of stuff. I need this particular version of DirectX, or this particular file of this, or set it up in a certain way. This particular ini file needs to have this value inside of it, whatever. That real depth of the requirements.
I think those fields, those 10 are the long-term servicing. Otherwise, they'd be out of date. It's great.
Yeah, no, that's true. 22H2. There you go. Yeah, no, I should change that. Oh, yeah, let's go all the way there. How's that? So that's requirements of what I need to be able to have this application install on my machine. So it won't even show it to the machine or show it to the end user if they don't comply with those requirements. Then we have the detection rules. Has this application installed and has it installed successfully? So I can set up, what am I looking for? I'm looking for a particular file. As long as that file exists in this location, I'm good, we're installed. Some of them may have other MSI registry files, all of those sorts of things. So, or a custom scripts that these files have to be in this order, in this location, in these places, configured this way, and then I know it's successful. If you select an MSI, it will automatically populate this for you with all of its MSI codes and gibberish and so forth that it puts in the registry in all the right locations, which makes it a lot easier to understand. So let's have a look at one of those real quick. I think Notepad++ is an MSI.
That's a version.
Pardon? Yeah, again, because of this version, this isn't the latest version. So I need to maintain on that as well and make sure that that's sent out. So detection rules. Yeah, okay. No, it's not. It's just looking for a file.
You've got to be careful with the detection rules, because that's all come back with your reporting if the app's successfully installed, but also when you go and have a look at how many devices this app installed on, you want to install it, your detection rule was program file / notepad++. Turns out it leaves notepad / notepad++ there after it uninstalled. It'll come back with a false positive.
Correct. Yeah. So
That's
yeah,
a big thing to watch out for.
that's actually a really good. I didn't follow on that one, but yeah. So in this here, if you just put a folder in the path there and you uninstall Notepad++, for example, it will leave that folder even though it's empty, or it will have your old settings because it doesn't want to remove your customizations just in case you reinstall it later on. If you leave it as that, you'll get a false positive that it hasn't uninstalled. So be very careful of what that looks like. It's a really good point. Thanks for that one.
It breaks company portal.
It breaks. Yeah. Yep.
Real bad.
Exactly. I thought I had .net. I can't remember which one's an MSI. I've built an MSI in here. MSI, here we go. Your app is not ready yet. Oh no. Oh, demo gods, what are you doing to me?
Yeah, detection, MSI code there as well.
Yeah, I just want to be able to get in and edit it and all sorts of things. So, oh, yeah, cool. So there's the uninstall command, as you can see. It will automatically, if I give David an MSI, it automatically puts this in for me, which is nice. I don't have to go thinking about what the particular ID code is or any of those sorts of things. The detection rules there. Again, this is looking for a registry key for that one for MSI. Again, it'll automatically put that one in for me for MSIs. So very, very cool as far as that's concerned. That's about all we're going to have time for. What we will do though is, I think we'll do November. Yeah, we'll do a specific one just on, say, Android or something like that, using things like Knox, getting them enrolled. So if you have a fleet of these out in delivery vans or, say, tyre fitters, company that I was just working with, installs tyres on cars and trucks and vans and so forth, and their staff members will walk around with these. So how would we deal with those? If it got lost, how do we make sure that it's contained and so forth? If someone drops theirs and they have to go into Harvey Norman and pick up a new one and turn it on and get it working again, how would we do that? And so forth. So that's where we run into things like Samsung Knox. It's free, built into every Samsung device that's out there, and it interfaces into Intune as well. So we'll look at the application packaging around Android devices in 2 months' time.
That gives you enough time to break another laptop.
I will break another laptop and I will have, yeah, a few devices that we can play with and get set up.
Same deal with Apple Business Manager as well. They're so similar once you've got past that initial device enrollment, and it's basically the same.
Yeah. So when it comes to mobile devices, whether it's Apple or Android. Now, I don't know, does Android have, does Apple
Yeah,
have
Apple Business Manager.
Business Manager?
Managers, the education.
Right, yes. So but you could, yeah, you got to set up an account with those, and it's a bit of a drive.
Certificates.
You should do it though.
Yeah, you
should absolutely do it.
You should absolutely do it.
No,
If
absolutely.
you're buying Apple devices, you
Yeah.
should have the Apple Business Manager.
Yeah, you hook it up to your
Purchase
Apple
account.
purchasing account. It's literally tell the user go to the store or deliver or whatever, right? And there is no way that they can go, oh, free phone. It's hardware locked.
We've had scenarios where we can't. Customer's got a bought a device and it's not in that system.
Yeah.
And they've left the company and it's locked and
Yeah,
Apple
that's it.
will not do anything.
Yeah.
Well, the only way to prove that you do own the device is that you have to give them the invoice.
Sometimes you can import the purchase number into.
Yeah, you
Business
can
Manager.
do that
Yeah,
retrospectively.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you just buy it from JB Hi-Fi, then
But you still need to factory reset it after you do that for it to get onboarded, because
Yes.
Apple have a global MDM, right, that everyone's device enrolls in, and then it checks, go, oh, hang on, you're managed, and pushes it through to Intune or whatever MDM it
you
is.
should set up the Apple Business Manager.
Yeah. Pause.
Yes. Okay.
Which is
So-
really good.
So I've got Android, so that's what we'll look at Android, but it sounds exactly the same. Yeah, Knox or Business Manager, they sound very, very much the same.
Yeah.
Android's, the Knox is a little bit better because you don't have to prove that you own a device. You can just pick up the device and enroll it directly into it. But once it's in there, and that device is then part of it until you manually go in and remove it out of there.
Forced enrollment.
Yeah, brute force enrollment is fine. But you can also set up then your suppliers as well to be able to automatically enroll it into there as well. So it's set and locked. But we'll talk about that in November.
Yeah, this next one we have.
Because next
Click on
month,
we've got, I'm going to butcher the name, Cindy, I believe the name is, Microsoft List templates with Power Automate for the recruitment tracking space. So that different change of products. We did get a request for platform/dynamics content, so not too sure to look forward to there, but it sounds on the blog that's attached to it. Sounds like it's a pretty good out of the box kind of setup. So hopefully it'll be a good session. Get more citizen developers on board.
Definitely, if you're in an admin space inside Microsoft and you are struggling to find PowerShell coders or get enough people that know PowerShell really, really well inside your organization, even if you do have people that know PowerShell really well inside your organization, knowing Power Automate is absolutely, and Power Platform, Power Apps is going to be one of the most key things going forward to be able to support your organization. One of the big things in the Essential 8 for ACSC is removing admin rights from people. How do we minimize that admin rights? But if we take those admin rights and put them into Power Automate, into those Power App type decision-making platforms, then we can automate some of those admin tasks. So how do we add someone to a group? We have to go through ServiceNow. We have to get it approved by somebody. It then triggers that request. That request then happens in the background. No one's had to log on to anything in the background and elevate their rights or any of that sort of crap. It's just done in the background and the whole thing is audited. And then all of a sudden we're at level 3 for Essential 8. So definitely Power Automate is going to be key going forward. And especially, I keep hearing, IT departments keep getting told, you've got to do more with less, you've got to do more with less. Well, that's great. But, the thing is there, when you start shedding staff, then the senior level people all of a sudden are the ones that only have admin privileges. So they're basically just working service desk 24/7 because everything filters through them. So we need to have tools like this to be able to relieve that pressure on infrastructure teams and so forth. So I'll get off my soapbox now.
Yeah, no, it's good. That's a lot more than I was saying. Yeah, and quick plug for myself. So I'll have the recording and the notes and the links, etc., on my blog. You'll see it on the LinkedIn spams and the. Actually, I haven't done a user group email out, so I might do that this time. Instead of using the comments section. All right.
And we'll follow up on a couple of those questions as well. So.
I'll leave the recording to find out the work.
So the question.
You can look at using a filter for this, which I assume was the protection rules stuff. If Leander is still on the call, yeah, the filter for.
Use a custom detection.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. So what was the question? Using a filter for what particular component?
Oh, I got a message from a lady, I think, asking around the install of apps for corporate devices only.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, putting that filter. So, how do you install an application on a corporate device instead of a BYOD device? Yes, absolutely. Setting up a filter there based on how it's enrolled, and we'll see when we look at the Android ones in. Keeps November or
whenever you want.
Whenever we do it, hopefully it'll be November. Yeah, we specifically set up a rule or filter for that, depending on how it's enrolled. And yeah, we can show that as part of that whole process. Whether that's Windows or iOS or Android, doesn't matter. Same sorts of rules apply.
Anyone that knows the Intune WinApp utility looks like. There you go.
He's already downloaded it and installed it.
I use it. Yeah. So
That's what the app looks like. When you point it at a
Pretty
folder,
much,
and it
yeah.
goes, it creates an Intune app.
I actually have no idea what app to show you. Oops, that's completely.
So it's 7-zip.
Pardon?
It's 7-zip.
That's what it is. Just 7-zip.
It does do
Rather
the encryption stuff, right? So and there's a thing you want to like save the key if you want to decrypt it later, blah blah blah. So yeah, it does securely zip it.
It does a little bit more than just zip it, but yes,
Secure zip.
Yeah,
correct.
yeah.
Yes, it creates that blob to be able to put up into Intune. It takes care
Is
of
that why when newer versions of Windows support WinRAR now?
Right. Pretty straightforward. You pick your source folder, what's the exe or the installer file, pick the output folder, it runs off and does a bunch of stuff. Just click yes, then it creates a thing. Okay, I already done it before, but it'll run through and package everything into a
That's right.
Intune WIM file.
Acrobat
Super
readers
complex
installed.
ones. If it's just
Pretty sure. A bunch of shoes there.
then the LOB is basically does the same thing, but you get a little click next in the Intune portal. Basically, exactly the same thing that does, but I think you just upload the exe. And off you go, and you set everything. But if you got like, all right, we've got 3 different, executables, that need to be installed in this particular way, get these dependent, whatever dependencies. If you want that in one nice blob, then go for it, or, set it up neatly and have your dependencies and all that sort of stuff set up. But that's more expensive. So.
Because content manager application, there's like a bunch of scripts in there and all these installers. It's like,
Yeah.
yes, this will work. The detection script was full on because it runs and checks against like 20 different reg keys to make sure that they're creates them every moment.
There you go. Interesting.
Good times.
Good times. So we'll follow up on a few of those questions, how we would do those sorts of things, whether or not updating that package will change those sorts of settings. IT Ninja, make a note of that, and I'll have a look at whether or not Chocolatey has any plans to put things into Intune. I doubt it, but also
Quick plug is Andrew Taylor and MVP and Intune. He's got a Intune backup script or something.
They're really cool.
Yeah, so look at that if you've
Okay.
got
Post that as well.
if you got work like you want to lose it or you want to replicate it.
Yeah. There's so many cool things that we can talk about with Intune and so forth. Essential 8, policy templates, and a whole bunch of stuff. But
I gave up.
We can go into the whole lot, but that's the sort of thing, right? That's I'm getting more and more into with clients moving over from config manager.
Letting go
to
of
Intune. I know, letting go of Intune. Yes, letting go of config manager over to Intune. We are well over the time. I appreciate everyone coming. Thank you very much.
Activities
afterwards. If
Post-activities.
anyone wants to join us, we'll probably go across the road. We used to do pizzas and so forth here, but we'd find that we'd order like 6 pieces of pizzas and then 2 people would stick around. So I'd be eating pizza for weeks to come. That wasn't good for me. So instead we have beer across the road instead.
Supporting local.
Yeah, exactly. So if you do want to hang around, have a chat, talk about anything.
Or just have a SharePoint.
Yeah, exactly. Life, the universe, everything. New babies that have arrived into the world.
Recording's being
All those
stopped now,
sorts of
guys.
things. We'll go across the road and